Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. In today's video we're going to be looking at the second conditional, which is also known as the present unreal conditional. So let's get started, and as always, if you enjoyed this video, maybe consider subscribing to the channel. Okay, so a conditional sentence has two parts, and one of the parts typically has the word if in it, and we'll call this a condition. And then you have a result which depends on the condition. So for example, if it rains tomorrow, the game will be cancelled. We're not sure if the game will be cancelled tomorrow, but it's a possibility, and it's a possibility that depends on the first part of the sentence, so it depends on if it rains tomorrow or not. What makes the second conditional a little bit different is that we use the second conditional for situations in the present that are impossible or very unlikely to actually happen. And to show you what I mean, let's take a look at a couple of examples. So you have the first sentence, and it says, if I won the lottery, I would retire and move to Costa Rica. Okay, so technically it is possible that I could win the lottery, but it's a very small possibility. Statistically speaking, it's almost impossible that even if I play the lottery every day, I will actually win. So I don't actually think that I'm going to win the lottery, and as a result, I don't actually think that I'm going to be able to retire and move to Costa Rica. And I'm letting you know that I don't think this is going to happen because of the structure of the sentence. I'm using the structure associated with the second conditional, and it's all in the conjugation of the verbs. Basically, that's the only difference between the second conditional and other types of conditional sentences. So specifically, I have used the simple past in the condition, if I won the lottery. This is telling you that I don't think that this is going to happen, or that this is impossible, basically, in my mind. And similarly, in the result, I would retire and move to Costa Rica. By using the modal would with a verb in the base form, I'm letting you know that this is not going to happen, but I'm only imagining what I would do if I were in this particular situation. The second sentence, I think, is going to make it a little bit more clear. And it says, if I didn't have to work, I would go to the party tonight. So same thing, I have used a verb in the simple past. And this is telling you that the reality is the opposite. So in reality, I have to work. And so I'm not going to go to the party. I would go to the party if I didn't have to work. So if my reality were the opposite. And again, simple past, would, here I'm using the contraction of would with a verb in the base form, tells you that it's an imaginary situation. And finally, if I had more free time, I might travel more. So it's exactly the same thing. By using a verb in the simple past, I'm telling you that this is not real, that in reality I don't have a lot of free time and I can't travel a lot. I'm only telling you what I could do if I were in this situation, if like my reality was different, if I had more free time specifically. And yes, I used a different modal here. I use might. So might and could are basically the only other two modal auxiliaries that you can use in the result in this type of conditional. Never use will. And the difference between might and would is that might expresses possibility. So basically it's like saying maybe would. So if I had more free time, I might travel more. If I had more free time, maybe I would travel more. But who knows? And could is expressing ability. So basically it's like saying would be able to, or would have the ability to. So if I had more free time, I could travel more, is like saying if I had more free time, I would be able to travel more, or I would have the ability to travel more. And basically that's it. That's the second conditional. We use it to talk about situations in the present that are the opposite of reality, so that are impossible, or at the very least, very, very unlikely. And we express that by using a verb in the simple past in the condition, and then using typically would with a verb in the base form in the result, although might and could are also possible. However, one thing to remember about conditional sentences, any conditional sentences, is that in the first three examples I have the condition first and then the result. The condition first and then a result. A condition and a result. But that's not necessarily always the case. It is possible to change the order of the two parts of the sentence, and it's still perfectly fine, and it still has the same definition. So for example, I might travel more if I had more free time. It's exactly the same thing as the previous sentence. And even though the result is at the beginning, I still have the modal might in this particular example, and then a verb in the base form. And for the condition, I still have a verb in the simple past. So I know this is the condition because of the word if you are confused, but it's exactly the same thing. In the second example, I would go into the pool if I could swim. So again, even though I have the result first, the result still has would and a verb in the base form, and then the condition still has a verb in the simple past. So here, could is acting like the simple past of can to express ability. And still, I'm telling you that I'm not going into the pool. I'm only imagining what I would do if my reality were different. If I could swim, in reality, I cannot. And then the final example is I would be happier if I were at the beach right now. Same thing. The reality is that I'm not happy, or at least I'm not as happy as I could be if I were at the beach, which I'm not. But here, pay attention to the conjugation of the verb to be in the simple past. So the verb to be has two forms in the simple past, was or were, depending on the subject. For this particular structure to express something that is unreal, and remember, all of these situations are in the present. The simple past form of the verb is simply expressing that the situation is unreal. So here, in formal English, the correct way to use the verb to be in the simple past is were, regardless of the subject. So it doesn't matter if it's he or she or it or I or we or you or they. The grammatically correct form is were for this particular structure. Although you will probably hear a lot of people using was as well, especially in informal conversations, and even with native speakers, or maybe even especially with native speakers. So it is becoming increasingly common and increasingly acceptable to use was as well, but technically this is the correct form, so really it's up to you. Okay, and basically that's the second conditional, but if you need a little more practice, I'm going to put an exercise in the comment section for you to do. And even if you understand how to use the structure, I think practice is really important, because it's always practice that is going to make you memorize the structure in the long term, and it's going to make you feel comfortable using this structure in any type of situation. So consider answering the exercise in the comment section, and if you enjoyed this video, consider liking the video, sharing the video, and maybe even subscribing to the channel.